Thank you very much, Jonas. Good afternoon. Palagay ko hindi ka pa nag-lunch. No. Gutom
Well,
ka.
kape lang. Kape lang
That's
yan.
why. You haven't eaten. That's why you're eating your words.
I do apologize for that, attorney.
Okay, so it's truly my pleasure to join you this afternoon. And what a timely and very relevant theme, no, that you have actually put together for this gathering. And let me share my screen as I prepared some slides. So if I may, please ask the host to allow me to share screen. Okay lang. I-ano ko kayo. Ayan. Taga. Continue. Oh, ayan. Sige. So let me share that, and I hope you can see the screen by now. And as it is coming through, I'd like to greet, of course, our partners in the industry. I don't know if Agnes Passes is here. I was told that she is represented by Alex Bautista of the SMX Convention Center. Of course, my good friend, partner, Joel Pascual of Paseos, and Mr. Kiko Velhagen, the project officer of the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development, of Mr. June Alvarez, no? President and Executive Director. Of course, yung mga members po ng Paseos and the members of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. It's truly my pleasure to join you this afternoon. Hopefully to set the tone right for this conference as I walk you through our intended and path to MICE 2030. So we're basically talking about the future of MICE. And that's why I noted that your theme is really apt because, well, nakakatuwa, nakakataba ng puso na sustainability is also being put in the heart, at the core of discussions for the MICE sector. And let me start on the holiday mood of positivity and optimism. Well, MICE is back. You know, the pictures here I'm showing you were taken from the reconnaissance visit of the team from the World Travel and Tourism Council from London. They were here a few weeks back to visit the potential venues for the forthcoming World Travel and Tourism Summit in Manila this coming March 14 to 16, 2022. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because the team was surprised to see the MICE sector quite back on its feet. Ang dami-daming events na nangyayari sabay-sabay during this reconnaissance visit and trips to the venues. And I said, wow, this is really a happy note for us in the industry, which has been one of the most hardest hit, if not the hardest hit within the tourism industry, no, yung sector ng MICE, because yun nga, we usually convene gatherings of business leaders, of the delegates, and therefore lahat ng regulasyon for distancing, tayo yung unang tinatamaan. So nakakatuwa na when we went around, may bustle na, no, around the environs, and a lot of events were happening. So congratulations. I hope you guys are getting the share of this revived MICE events happening around us. And with the country being put on alert level 2 for most, if not practically all of our destinations, this really augurs well for us because the ease restrictions, particularly for MICE, which gather, as I said, people and convenes events, this has also reopened the economy and the other parts of the tourism value chain that contribute to MICE. And somehow nakikita natin na parang okay, medyo bumabalik na tayo sa pre-pandemic kind of normal. No? Except of course, ayan, marami pa rin ayan, automatic nakahang yung masks natin around our neck because when there are people around us, then we put on the mask back. No? So let me go into the meat of this note on strengthening the MICE as our collective efforts. Let me remind everybody, those who were not part of the discussions, but the DOT actually has led various activities, including focus group discussions. There were desk reviews of researchers of studies done. There were surveys conducted. So many of the attendant and needed legwork so that we are able to revisit the MICE Roadmap 2030, which has been rolled out prior to the pandemic, because it is important that we take stock of what the challenges are before us and what are the opportunities that we can leverage on, so that we can collectively realize the goal to really position the Philippines as a leading MICE destination, not just in Asia and the Pacific, but also within the Middle East, by 2030. And if you guys are watching the developments in Dubai Expo, and I was in the World Travel Mart in London first week of November, the Middle East is quite aggressive in really positioning that part of the globe as a MICE destination. So we are really facing stiff competition, and there's so much work to be done, but I know that sama-sama naman tayo, so kaya natin yan. In our efforts to strengthen the MICE sector, the recalibration of the MICE Roadmap 2030, the efforts to revise the document really seeks to assess the feasibility and the relevance of the MICE Roadmap. And then it allows for the recalibration and the identification of targets for the 4 MICE components in subsectors of 1 for meetings, 1 for incentives, conventions and exhibitions. And actually for incentives, we are also putting together a portfolio para we can leverage on the WTTC Summit and carve opportunities for really pushing this forward. Second is that we are also updating our statistics. So we want to have reliable data so that the development of methods to also improve yung mga figures natin. We really want to have, a concrete grasp, may hold talaga tayo on information na needed, that are relevant for decision making, for planning for the MICE sector. And of course, inevitably this effort is looking at assessing the impact of COVID-19 on our stakeholders within the Philippines for MICE, so that we'll be able to responsively identify and include proposed measures to respond to this COVID-19 impact on MICE sector and allow for a smoother recovery for our stakeholders within the MICE industry. So the 4 aspects that we're looking at for the Roadmap 2030 for MICE touches upon, of course, yung marketing, and then human resource pa din, infrastructure, policy, and governance. Specific to human resource, we're really looking at upskilling and retooling, having an upskilling and retooling program para matulungan natin mag-pivot yung mga kasama natin sa industry on like managing virtual events, yung mga video production, mga bagong skills yan. Online branding, mag-pivot na sila to online and digital technology, yung pag-adapt ng online marketing and promotion. So kailangan po lahat yun. And we need to align also our programs with those of the local government units. Specific to marketing, and that's related also to the HR element, we really want to encourage you, our partners from the private sector, to pursue incentive travel as part of tourism. And lalo na ngayong we are gradually reopening, sana po magtuunan din natin yun ng attention. Of course, we want to promote local-led events in the meantime that the borders are not yet fully open to overseas visitors, and pave the way for business travel ventures for this. And hopefully, even within MICE, we will be able to develop travel bubble packages, which we in the TPB have done since last year with FITEX in Bohol, and hopefully you have learned also from those experiences. Infra, of course, kung nandito si Agnes, love na love ni Agnes na topic ito kasi totoo naman, we really need to compete and invest on our infra development. Of course, yung other parts of the country, there are those that are ahead like Iloilo, Baguio, my own region in Bicol, medyo ngayon nangangarap na magkaroon na rin ng MICE infrastructure in in the region. So we want to develop other regions and cities with MICE as their priority in terms of MICE-related and support facilities. So going around the country, I realized also na beyond the physical infrastructure, yung hindi natin nakikita na internet connectivity is something that's also essential kasi kung hybrid is there to stay, then that really matters. No? Your broadband capacity, the speed of the internet in the venue these are things that are really concretely considered by organizers and attendees as well. And of course, we want to assist MICE players in securing certifications under our human resource component. And going back to infrastructure, yung provision of infrastructures that support virtual and hybrid events. So sabi ko nga sa mga friends ko na nag-i-invest sa mga bagong facilities, sabi ko, oy, i-design nyo na such that na siya, virtual stage na talaga na capable no, yung inyong mga facilities. So these are some of the salient aspects of the revisions that are being made in the MICE Roadmap 2030. Looking ahead, I've been saying it in many words, but really, honestly, we have to embrace this fact that the future is hybrid. I don't think we're going back to purely physical MICE events now that we've seen also the advantages of hybrid events. And technology is our ally in this regard. So for the TPB, we've staged the Tourism and Technology Forum this year, a two-part series, because we really wanted to push for our stakeholders to embrace this reality already. If we do not adapt faster enough, maiiwan tayo talaga. No? And this is also specifically true for the MICE sector. The future is hybrid. We've seen it even for MICE. Last year we did it purely online, but this year we did it on a hybrid mode. And the reach is bigger, higher. No? We're able to connect to a bigger audience. And even the learning opportunities are sustained kasi even after the actual event, we're able to make available the learning sessions through videos that are on demand. So can you imagine the wealth of knowledge and information shared because we are doing these things hybrid? So like for this year, happy kayo siguro na yung MICE Connect was actually a focus on MICE in Boracay, promoting it as a leisure destination. So conventionally, Boracay, wow, beach, di ba? Parang who would have thought na it is also actually now ripe to be a MICE destination. So we continue to help our stakeholders in bidding for international events and also keeping in mind that potentially this will all be done hybrid on a hybrid mode. Yung right now we're helping like get the award for the Rotary 2028 event. So maganda po yun no, na ginagawa natin lahat ngayon. And then the second element has to do with the heart of the theme of your gathering discussions this afternoon. And truly, sustainability is the new sexy. Yan, so yan talaga yung ngayon, yung in. This is what rocks now. And so I hope that you as my stakeholders will consciously take note of the environmental footprint of our MICE activities. Mga simpleng bagay, small acts like yung mga ginagamit nating conference IDs. Karamihan nakikita ko plastic pa din, non-biodegradable. So maybe we can invest on recyclable materials, on recycled materials, or maybe upcycle them. I've noticed in some international conferences I would go to before, meron silang bin na at the end of the conference, the delegate can just, return the IDs for future use. So these are small practices that will really contribute to sustainability in doing events. I hope that, these efforts will contribute positively not only to the economy, but to our contributions to our social and environmental patrimony. So kanina maganda yung video na napanood natin about how we really ought to take care of Mother Earth. And these are key elements, components of the Sustainable Development Goals. So life on Earth, life under sea, life in water, ay nako, lahat po yan kasama tayo. And I'm really grateful that you, our partners and stakeholders in the MICE sector are doing this. So while 100% green meeting is something that's well within the realm of our aspiration, but it begins with that. It begins with a dream, and I hope you share this dream with us, that we hope to really conduct MICE events 100% green. And for TPB's part, we are really initiating the conduct of events to build up confidence of our stakeholders, not just to organize these events on their own, but to have the consciousness that through these events, we impact the lives and livelihood of our communities. And hopefully now with a greater consciousness for sustainability. And of course, the third element is that the way to go forward is that that highway is really marked by our partnerships. And for that, I'm truly grateful that through the maybe 23 months that I have been COO of the TPB, I have been able to cultivate, despite the pandemic, friendships within the MICE sector. And I'm truly grateful for that because, results after we harness our resources will only be there for us if we leverage on our relationships. So these are the 3 R's to keep in mind, like we add our resources to our relationships to get to our results. And I know that this path is something that you would gladly take with us at the TPB. As I close, I remind you, I update you that the TPB last year rolled out an enhanced MICE Plus program that increased incentives and widened the opportunities for availing of assistance from the TPB for the events that you do in the industry. So if there's anything you need from our end, I hope that you will not hesitate to reach out to us, and we will be more than happy and blessed to do our share of assistance to you. And this is from Alvin Toffler. I thought it is apt to end this note with you. He says, if we do not learn from history, we shall be compelled to relive it. It's true. But if we do not change the future, we shall be compelled to endure it. And that could be worse. Having said this, thank you again. And I wish you all a future ahead that we co-create, something that we will not endure, but something that we will truly enjoy with more fun. Maraming salamat po at maligayang Pasko sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat rin, Attorney Tonette. And thank you for that wonderful closing. And of course, the emphasis on the 3 R's earlier. That's something that I actually learned from you. And along with the other items that you mentioned for the MICE sector. And I believe that your optimism will help our participants go through what will be hopefully a great year ahead of us.
Amen.
All right. So let's move forward then to the next speaker for this afternoon. So talking with us for the topic of MICE venues in the new normal is Miss Alex Bautista, the food hygienist of SMXCC. Miss Alex is a graduate at UPLB, a nutritionist dietitian by profession, and she handles the FSMS of 7 convention centers under SMX conventions. So she brings with her 7 years of extensive experience in food safety, hygiene, and sanitation. She is also skilled in program planning and systems audit of food safety programs in different settings, such as hotels, MICE, catering, and restaurants. She has a strong background in pre-opening properties and building food safety management systems from the ground up. Recently added to her task is the lead role of the SMX Sustainability Technical Working Group, where she and other department heads have established the SMX Sustainability Action Plan based on the UN Sustainability Development Goals, as well as the SMHCC 7 Green Goals. Ms. Alex, you have the floor, and thank you for gracing us with this event this afternoon.
Thank you for that introduction, JM. I'd like to ask permission to share my screen. Okay. So can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Bautista, and I will be representing the SMX Conventions Group on behalf of our General Manager, Ms. Agnes Pasis. So this afternoon, I'd like to share with you the steps that we have undertaken to ensure the safety of all our stakeholders, as well as the sustainability of our operations. So pre-pandemic, we have always put safety and quality in the forefront of our service. All our safety systems are use the risk-based approach to ensure the prevention of any untoward incidents in our properties. And with the new normal, we have incorporated parameters in our safety systems relating to infection prevention and control based on the guidelines set by our government agencies, the IATF, as well as the reopening guidelines set by the WHO and the CDC. Another reference that we have used for our Sustainably Safe program is the health and hygiene program called Sustainably Safe by our head office, SM Hotels and Conventions Corp, which basically enumerates the protocols that we have in keeping our properties and stakeholders COVID-free. Now, moving forward to the steps in entering our building, we have two health declaration forms, one for employees, guests, as well as organizers. That's a Trace Together app. And on the right side is the health declaration certificate, which is a requirement for all our caterers. And upon entry, you will notice the increased hand sanitizing stations in all our entrances. We also implement the no face mask, no entry policy. Before, when face shields were mandatory, we also included this in our signages and also in our requirements. Also in our entrances are the thermal scanning cameras. And for people who fail to have the standard body temperature, they are restricted to enter the building, or they are assisted to our designated isolation area. We also have existing foot baths in all our entrances. So the disinfectant use there is approved by the EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency. And this is changed depending on the foot traffic. So this is changed between 2 to 4 hours. Other procedures that we also have in place in our properties is the mandatory social distancing. So actually this 2 meters is from our previous material, but for now we are implementing the physical distancing of 1 meter, in all areas. We also have adequate signages in all our common areas and also our entrances, so that people are reminded to distance themselves from other guests. And also to ensure physical distancing in other areas where there are no cameras, we have put in place barriers inside our comfort rooms to ensure physical distancing. Also part of our procedure is the physical distancing inside our elevators. So we have 2 types of elevators in our property, one for the contractors and one for the guests. One principle under the Sustainably Safe program is the safety of our employees is the safety of our guests. We believe that in order for us to provide quality service to our clients, we must be in good health condition, and we must be we must not be the source of transmission. So first, all SMXCC staff are 100% fully vaccinated. And last Monday, we have started rolling out the booster shot for those employees who have been vaccinated between May and June of 2021. Next, all SMX Convention Center staff are required to wear complete PPE. So this includes the face mask, face shields before when it was mandatory, as well as gloves for our housekeeping staff. We also believe that our contractors must be safe and must not be a source of transmission. So caterers undergo the SMX normal training as well as the reopening audit before being approved to provide services to SMX and its clients. Other suppliers such as AV, booth contractors, undergo the SMX new normal orientation before the day of the event. Next principle under the Sustainably Safe program is it's hip to be clean. This is the new norm of service. So before disinfection and increased sanitation was deemed exaggerated, but now we commit to continuing this protocol, no, even after the pandemic ends. So disinfection of all equipment and venues before and after event day. So this is also implemented during venue lockdown for multiple day events. We have also increased the frequency of ventilation systems, cleaning and maintenance. In all our venues, we have continuous fresh air intake to ensure the proper air circulation. We have also increased the sanitation or the disinfection of high contact surfaces. So that includes the handrails, the elevator buttons in our common areas, as well as our countertops in our concierge. For offices and meeting rooms, we have installed air purifiers to ensure the safety of our employees. And for our kitchens, we have implemented or we have increased the disinfection measures, and this is done before and after use of each caterer. So let me just show you some examples of our disinfection protocols in all our properties. So just to remind everyone that this is not only applicable in SMX Manila, this is also a practice in properties in the provinces as well as small branches. Next principle under the Sustainably Safe program is keeping the distance. So physical distancing of at least 1 meter is observed in queuing and also in all public areas. So you can see here the sample photo of one of our events where the tables are physically distanced from each other. So the clearance is 1 meter, no, from each table. From our previous setup of 10 chairs per table, or sometimes 12, we have decreased it to 5 chairs per table. We have also ensured crowd control and physical distancing measures are practiced by the guests and employees as well as suppliers through CCTV monitoring and protocol marshals in the form of our security personnel. We have also ensured that adequate reminders and signages are deployed in the common area so that people are reminded to keep physically distanced from other delegates. Here are some of the setup in our different properties to ensure physical distancing during events. So the first photo is in SMX Bacolod. The right photo is in SMX Davao. So this is for a theater as well as a classroom setup. We also have events or physically distanced tables in Seaside Sky Hall. So this is a dinner event, and also the vaccination in Olongapo City Convention Center. Next is the aisle clearance between exhibits, no, in booths. So the first photo is in SMX Aura. This is during the Manila Art Show. And the right photo shows the DTI Bagsakan just 2 weekends ago. So the aisle clearance is 3 meters between booths, no, for two-way traffic. The last principle under the Sustainably Safe program is emergency preparedness. So we ensure that all of our staff are trained in case of an emergency or in the event of a positive or a confirmed case, no, in either our employees, our suppliers, or even our guests. So a designated isolation area for individuals with symptoms is provided. Close coordination with local health authorities for the enforcement of protocol and monitoring of affected individuals. Hospital transfer via ambulance is also offered to persons with high body temperature or people or guests with symptoms of COVID-19. Now, if you noticed during my intro, I mentioned that I didn't mention the word reopen because technically we did not close our doors. We had to be creative and we had to repurpose our spaces to ensure that it is being utilized despite the restrictions on mass gathering. So we offered our spaces as studio for product launches. We also offered it as storage space. We also offered it as a licensure exam venue. So we had board exams and also insurance licensure exams that we have conducted in our spaces across all properties. We also offered it to other business units or other private establishments as an extension of their offices, no, to ensure that physical distancing is observed between their employees. And recently, we have been offering our spaces as a vaccination facility because of our wide space and our adequate areas, no, to ensure physical distancing. And moving forward to the sustainability action plan of SMX, we believe that in order to continue quality service to our guests, we must be sustainable within our operations. So our sustainability action plan is based on the SMH CC7 green goals, no? And we have the following focuses. So first is the reduction in plastic consumption. Next is to implement diversion measures for our generated waste. Next is the conservation of energy in all our properties. And next is the reduction of GHG emission in all our operations. Another part of the 7 green goal is the water recycling or water conservation measures that we have implemented across all properties. We have also implemented gender equality. So we have several male-dominated departments which have female or in which we have employed female candidates. And lastly is the promotion of sustainable tourism across all properties. So the 7 green goals are actually based on the UN SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goals. So some examples of our sustainability initiatives include our glass paneled walls. In addition to aesthetics, a green sensibility is incorporated into the design philosophy. And because of this glass paneled walls, we allow natural light into the facility's lobbies, reducing our dependency on artificial light. Our air conditioning system also features an individual air distribution system for each event area to conserve energy. So it doesn't mean that when one function room is when a client rents one function room, no, doesn't mean that we have to turn on the aircon for the whole building. For our properties within the mall, which do not have glass paneled walls, we have ensured that we have to install LED bulbs and to conserve energy. No, also all electric and electronic features and equipment of the facility adhere to a standard operating schedule, or we implement a pre-cooling schedule. So this is to conserve energy also. Also part of our consumption reduction, all guest comfort rooms have automatic sensors for the faucet and toilet flushes to reduce water wastage. And because of this, we are able to conserve as much as 150,000 liters of fresh water each year. Another sustainability initiative under consumption reduction, all our escalators and elevators, as well as lights in our guest comfort rooms, are sensor operated. No? Also, SMX uses LCD screens for computers and television monitors throughout the entire facility. This consumes less energy than the CRT monitors. So the use of digital signages are also part of our initiative in reducing paper collaterals and signage during events. And another project that we have been brewing, under consumption reduction is our smart meeting experience. So this is our green meeting. Basically, we will use meeting rooms with natural daylights or meeting rooms with the glass paneled walls. Air conditioning will be set at 23 degrees Celsius. SMX green coffee and tea setup, which I will be showing later on, will be set up during this meeting. One plant-based menu or local menu will be served during lunch or during snacks. Pads and pencils will be made of upcycled materials and will be as requested to reduce the consumption or to reduce the generated waste. Water pitchers will be served instead of individual bottled water. So we will be also installing water dispensers inside the meeting rooms. Green plants or pots as centerpiece, and this will be care of our partner caterers. We will also be installing waste segregation bins to encourage the guests to segregate their waste during the meeting. This is also a part of our activity in the campaign to phase out single-use plastics in the hospitality sector. So this is the example of our green coffee and tea setup. So our coffee is sourced from a local supplier, and we have replaced our plastic stirrers with teaspoons to reduce the plastic consumption. We have taken out the single-use or the bottled water, and we will be serving pitchers instead. And most of our or all of the condiments that you will be serving will be served in individual compostable packaging material. So other projects that we have under diversion measures is the trash to cash program. So we do this quarterly and we include all types of waste. So for this year, we will be doing the paper drive, or we have started the paper drive project, as well as the disposal of e-waste to the unaccredited hauler. Other diversion measures that we have, so all our wastewater undergoes sewage treatment regularly to remove contaminants and follow the minimum standards of the LLDA and DNR, making it suitable for reuse or discharge back to the environment. So this is a sample of our wastewater treatment or wastewater testing done monthly. Another part of our diversion measures is to engage our suppliers to practice the same. So last December 2019, we started the dry run project with Green Space Philippines, and we have started engaging our partner caterers in adopting a food waste management strategy. So in the photos, you will see our dry run our dry run with Green Space, and this is called Green Buckets. So basically, we gave our partner caterers Bokashi brand, for them to divert their food waste and turn it into pre-compost. So because of that dry run, we were able to divert 2.1 tons of food waste last 2019. And we were able to use it as a compost and grow fresh produce from it. So these are the samples of the fresh produce from the pre-compost or the compost that we have diverted or we have included in the dry run project. Next, under reduced GHG emission. So in order for us to reduce our GHG emission, we must be able to know our data. And with that, we have partnered with PSEPSD to use the resource efficiency tool in measuring the greenhouse gas emissions in our operations. So with our baseline data, we will be able to establish conservation measures as well as diversion measures, and apply a circular economy in our operations. So actually, we have a lot of lists, under our sustainability initiatives, but these are just some of the examples that we have and are currently doing in all our properties. All right, so thank you everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, kindly type it in the chat box and I will be glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Alex, for that wonderful presentation. And I actually look forward to going back to SMX MOA really soon for future events. All right, let's move on to our next presentation. We can get the IT team to move forward a bit. All right, our next presentation about MICE organizers in the new normal will be with Mr. Joel Pascual, President of the Philippine Association of Convention/Exhibition Organizers and Suppliers, and are also our partner this afternoon. Sir Joel is a professional mechanical engineer and is currently president of Baron Engineering Supplies, an industrial refrigeration firm with nationwide operations. He also currently sits as PASEO's president and also founding director and a lecturer of PhilMICE Academy, the only certification body in the Philippines for professional event organizers. As an event organizer himself, Sir Joel has 21 years of experience tucked under his belt and has steered PEP Group Incorporated into a leading professional events management company with some of the biggest shows presented throughout the Philippines. Most recently, it has become part of Tarsus Group of Companies from London, and now it is known as the PEP Tarsus Corporation. Good afternoon, Sir Joel, and thank you for gracing our event today.
Thank you, Jonas, for the introduction, and thank you everybody for having me here. Thank you for putting a spotlight on MICE. All of these efforts, of course, is helping the industry somewhat remain relevant, even despite the situation. Anyway, can I share my screen? All right, so hopefully it can be seen. I am here to discuss the ongoing evolution of the events industry towards safety and sustainability. Definitely by design, before the pandemic, we were really all physical, really, because this is the kinds of things we want to see whenever we have physical events. Jam-packed people, shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall people. This is how we measured the effectiveness and the success of our events. This is an example of our last all-physical event in 2019.
Sir Joel, sorry, I know it was the end of the presentation, but we didn't get to hear the audio.
Again?
We didn't get to hear the audio po of your video kanina.
There's
But
no
it's okay po. I think it was the end.
I have several videos, so should I start again? I mean, I'll go to the next video, but should I reshare my?
Maybe, sir, if you could share your screen na may option to share the audio.
Where is that? I've
Or
never.
perhaps, sir,
Uh,
I wonder if our IT team has a copy of his presentation so that we could present it na lang, sir.
They don't have.
Oh, okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, there's an option there's 3 dots down below your Zoom.
Okay.
And
And then
It should show share computer audio or optimize video clip for sharing, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
And then just click both of those po.
Wait. I'm sorry. I've never experienced this problem before.
No problem po.
I can't seem to. Wait. Is this? Can you see what I'm doing? Can we maybe wait? Sorry, I won't play this full, but just tell me if you can hear it. Now it doesn't want to run. Can you hear it now?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear it, sir.
Okay, we don't need to replay that. You saw it. You saw that doing physical is fun. That we miss all of those rooms with many people. We're hoping that it comes back, but of course, when the pandemic hit us, we had to go virtual. We all know that we all had to do this. No, whether it's the meetings, the conferences, the training, or the exposition, everything went online. That was the only way we can continue to exist. Otherwise, if we didn't do this, we might as well have closed our doors. The problem is we didn't know or still don't know how long the pandemic will last. And so us in our company, we had to try our best to come up with an all virtual expo. And this is what came up. That's what we did. We did all virtual. We did it with a certain degree of success. It went on smoothly. We made some money, but still, it really is not the same as if we were to do it physically. And so we were just waiting for the time for us to be able to do some physical component along with our show to recover, to rekindle the effectiveness and the feeling of what we used to enjoy back in 2019. And so it's the advent of the hybrid. Just very recently, from November 10 to 13, we actually had our very first MoFix hybrid, wherein we had several components. We had the virtual expo alongside a physical expo. We had virtual staging, okay? Even our interviews became a hybrid, okay? Done physically, but shown virtually. Just to compare also, we had the two kinds. We had an all virtual series of seminars as well as physical seminars, face-to-face seminars. And even our competition is finally something that we were able to do hybrid style as well. And because of this is how it looks now, how an event looks now in terms of hybrid.
Welcome back. I'm coming to you here live from World Food Expo or WolfX Autumn here at the Mega Trade Hall, SM Mega Mall. I'd like really to begin this session with a thank you. I'd like to thank all of our exhibitors, all of our sponsors, our visitors, and our participants. When we began the journey of putting up this expo, people thought we were crazy. Why were we selling an expo in the middle of a pandemic? Which is why I'm very thankful today, because as the video will show you, people lined up, our seminars were full, our competition was lively. And with all of that, we really thank the Lord for providing. We did our best, and hopefully this is the trajectory for the food service industry and for the economy as a whole will be nothing but up. So join me in the next few minutes as we again take the journey of knowing a little bit more about our exhibitors, and at the finale, a little bit more about the Philippine Culinary Cup. Because these are two brands that make WolfX the ultimate food show experience. I'll be back. Welcome back to the viewers of WolfX. This is part of our hybrid effort to bring you the experience both online and in person. With me today is actually one of the
I won't finish that anymore because what's important there is that we can now do certain things that we didn't even really think of doing before. By combining the virtual and the physical, we were actually able to create a new product. However, let me just tell you that moving forward, because of our hybrid, we found out that people, 98, because we sold, example, booths, both physical and virtual, 98% of the time, the clients will still choose physical. Even in our seminars, in our training, our virtual seminars did not gain as much attendance as our physical. They were so excited to do our physical seminars that, this for us augurs well that indeed the face-to-face is going to make a strong comeback. And it should, because for a lot of event organizers, and even for the stakeholders here, the hotels, the venues, this is really what we're all wishing for, because it's actually dangerous for virtual to think that virtual will replace the physical, because a lot of the stakeholders in MICE will run out of business. And it's good. When I went to Singapore just a few weeks ago, the event organizers all over the world are saying physical will make a very strong comeback, and that really says well for the stakeholders here, the venues, the freight forwarders, the caterers, because our business will come back. In fact, they're saying it's the fastest recovery in 80 years from any economic crisis. Lahat ng markets na nag-open ng MICE, ang bilis-bilis ng rebound. So it's not going to be a slow burn. We can expect it to really reboot very quickly once we are all open. Now, to enable us to do this, of course, we have to guarantee that safety is going to be done. As SMX, prior to my talk, very clearly expounded, they are doing all their best to make sure that there are safe events. In fact, ako as event organizer, it is the venue first. In fact, that's what I told my team when we had that physical event. The safety guidelines of the venue is king. The organizer will only add as we see fit. So whereas before we did not really look at this, as event organizers now will make it our priority to look at the safety guidelines in place of the venue when we choose our venues. And SMX has done a wonderful job, and I can only hope that all other stakeholders here, hotels, and convention centers here can follow suit to put as much of the safety protocols as they can. I am not going to discuss this anymore because SMX already discusses in full. I will be discussing sustainability. Definitely, as SMX discussed, they are in a position to do grander things than the organizer because they are permanently in place. As organizers, we move around different venues all over the country. So we can only do so much in terms of sustainability. But what I will be teaching you now are things, small things, might be small things, but things that we can do as event organizers hand in hand with our venues. Going paperless, okay. Before the event, I will be discussing to you before the event, during the event, and after the event. So before the event, how we reduce our carbon footprint is publicized, of course, through electronic channels. This is nothing new. This has been happening even pre-pandemic, but I guess with almost, I think, with a very small percentage now still going for the paper, newspapers, magazines, etc. The importance of communicating through digital channels now have become really, really important and a must for everybody. And so ang nangyari sa pandemic, it's just emphasized it even more that important, let's go digital for everything that we need to promote marketing wise. Our registration online, our payments online. So this the one on the left is how people register to go to WOFEX, and the one on the right is how people pay us for some of the seminars that are inside WOFEX. So everything is digital now. It's an option that we did not promote heavily before, but has now become second nature to people. Before the pandemic, we were all afraid of giving our credit card details. Now we give it to everything that we purchase, Shopee, Lazada, Grab, lahat na lang ng aggregators alam na siguro ang ating details in terms of the credit card. We have gone beyond the paranoia to realizing that it's something that we must do if we are to survive in this new normal. In terms of printed materials, if it is really needed to print, then make the printing smaller and then just reserve all the details into your website. Example, we now just print postcards, no? A small piece of paper na nandun lang just to remind everybody. We no longer print big materials or brochures. Hindi na kailangan because all we need is a small reminder that they can keep and use as entrance, and then all other details will go to the website. So we have reduced our carbon footprint by reducing the size of the paper that we are utilizing. In fact, in some of our events, this is not even necessary. It's just that in our industry, maraming old school maraming nasa edad pa rin na gusto pa rin nila ng paper, and so we still do it. But we have reduced it drastically. Now, in terms, if you must print, you can choose actually different ways of actually helping the environment using recycled paper, vegetable-based inks, and tree-free paper. These are options that are available now. It used to be very expensive, but because of the wider use now, it has become less expensive and actually very approachable for organizers. And then if you are to have conferences or exhibitions that are multiple venues, or you have official hotels, make sure they are close proximity. Make them walk instead of riding cars, taxis, and buses. And if they must travel, hopefully they are near mass transits so that they don't have to bring individual cars. These are two things that can drastically reduce the carbon footprint of any event. Now let's go during the event. How can we help sustainability during the event? One is actually avoid printed handouts and certificates. Go digital. Dati, I think about 5 or 8 years ago, meron pa kaming nakukuha ng mga nagrereklamo. They still want the printouts that they can, hold by hand. Now it's no longer become an issue. I don't think we've received any concern in the past 4 or 5 years na nagrereklamo that we only give electronic copies of the handouts. So that is something you can advise your speakers. Avoid the handouts. Okay, in terms of printout, everything goes digital. Transactions, go cashless. Once again, sanay na, it's become second nature. The mere fact that even my mom, who's 85 years old, knows now how to buy in Shopee and Lazada tells you that it's across generations already. Hindi na natatakot ang tao to go cashless. And so let's encourage doing that. Let's avoid not only passing around the paper bills, but also we will be decreasing the possibilities of infections. In terms of name cards, uso na to. Wala na talagang paper name card. Everything is QR code. Just bring around your QR code if somebody's interested. Scan lang yung personal QR code nyo. They would be brought to a site wherein to your page wherein there's your details, and then they can just save the page. Okay, so no more, don't print out business cards anymore. It's going to be very passe in the near future. QR codes na lang. Instant copy pa. You know what you do with your business cards, right? Mawawala, matutupi, mababasa, itatapon. At least the QR code is permanently on their phone unless they delete it. What about gifts, recognitions, awards, mga certificates, trophies, no, plaques? If your speakers are people of good reputation, no, or mga kilalang tao, in all possibilities, they don't really care about this. No, they don't care about you giving them plaques or trophies. In fact, nagiging kalat lang siya. No, I remember when I moved houses, I probably had 50 to 60 trophies and plaques that were just lying around. That ang ginawa ko lang, pinicturean ko lahat just to have a record, and then I threw everything away. So let's not do this anymore. Everything can be just electronic. Just give us an electronic file of the certificate of appreciation, and maybe consider donating in our name. Okay, consider the donation. Kasi kung honestly, no, speakers of good repute don't really expect much. There is just that willingness or that desire to share. So let's rethink about all of these things that just increases the carbon footprint. Okay, you know, I've been into maybe 3 meetings already na live in hotels in the past 3 months, and I still see this in action. I still see hotels putting paper and pens on the table in the meetings. Please don't do that anymore. This is something I have been doing personally in my events for many years already. Siguro mga 10 years na. I insist that my staff get all of the paper and the pencil and just put it at the side. Kasi very wasteful siya eh. What happens is that people will just doodle, no, draw, or make it scratch paper. The pencils they will bring home, put it in a cabinet and never use it. Okay? So nagiging ano lang siya, waste na siya na kasi lang nasa harap mo na susulatan mo. So what we've really done in our events for many years already is that it's on demand. It's just at the side, kung gusto mo, kunin mo. Okay? But we will not spoon feed you in terms of the papers and the pens. Okay. What about the water bottle that you see here? Nakita ko pa rin yan. Again, I just saw it when I attended in a hotel. No yan. In fact, when we were also in Boracay, that was the CEO even said during her speech, no, please wag nyo nang gamitin niyang plastic na yan because she's encouraging sustainability. Instead, just like what Alex Bautista mentioned earlier, use recyclable bottles or use pitchers or use water coolers. So, on demand na rin yan. Make people stand up and get their water, which actually is good. During meetings, it's nice to be able to use your legs once in a while to increase your adrenaline or your energy, magising ka na kaunti. Make them stand up and walk and get their water. Make it on demand instead of just using these plastic bottles. However, if you must use pre-packed drinks, what you should do is downsize. Use the smallest packaging size para less waste, no? Less plastic to go around, less wastage in terms of the water, the content. Sa totoo lang, people in the meetings will make do with whatever size you give them. Yun na lang din ang gagamitin nila. We've done this many times. Kahit mas maliit, okay lang sa kanila. E di umulit na lang sila doon sa mas malakas. Pero more often than not, one small bottle is enough. Okay. What about the food? To avoid also wastage, finger foods. Okay, this is something that I was just in a meeting 2 weeks ago. Ito yung sinerve sa amin. It's wonderful. Everything I can eat by hand. So wala nang need for plates and utensils. If you must use, then something that used to be very expensive as early as 3 years ago has now become very affordable. That the prices have gone down is a good indication that more and more people are using this. So the options are there. It's just a matter of us using it. If you must decorate, use natural and reusable items. No? In fact, mas appreciated pa siya. that you are being very creative and being very sustainable in the design of your event. No, let us try to recycle. Let us try to use natural things that can be found. No, let's use them before being thrown away. At least that gives immediately your event a CSR component. Okay, after the event, those are our recommendations for during. What about after the event? Parang very basic, parang napaka kindergarten or prep, but close the lights. Sometimes we forget to just close the lights to make the rounds of the event, especially in exposition, and turn off all unnecessary usage of electricity. Tapos, you make all of that effort to use recyclable materials, but you forget to collect it. So make sure that the collection process is in place. I really appreciate what I heard from Alex earlier on, that they have the system in place in SMX. No? This will be very hard to be a function of the organizer. Kasi nga, as I said, no, when I have events in Iloilo, hindi naman ako taga Iloilo eh. When I have MICE in Davao, I'm not from Davao, so I don't have the proper connection. I will probably put this responsibility on the shoulders of the venues. Can you tell me, is there a system in place for collection of all the recyclable materials? In terms of the booth setup, aamin ako na the exhibition uses a lot of waste. There is a ton of wastage during and after the event. Bakit? Because we are compressing maybe a year's supply of transactions and business into 3 to 4 days. Example, in WOFEX, we get maybe 50,000 people in the show. Imagine compressing all of that negotiation and transaction. Ganun karami ang food sampling na nangyayari. So at the end of the expo, maraming kalat. Abroad, you see this, the carpeting. Sa abroad, one-time use lang yan, tinatapo na. Maswerte ang Pilipinas kasi kahit pa paano, nakikita natin yung ating booth contractors. They use it over and over again until magkabutas na. So ginagamit pa. But there is great waste in exhibitions, but now we really are encouraging our exhibitors to reuse it. Maybe use it a minimum of 3 times every year before consider changing it, or maybe, again, hindi namin pwedeng i-force, but we are encouraging our exhibitors to use biodegradable materials. Okay. Na-mention to na COO kanina, the lanyards, the name tag holders, correct. In other countries, may bin siya. Ibalik nyo dyan so that we can reuse it. So what does it tell us as organizers? Hindi na namin lalagyan ng dates ngayon yung mga lanyards. Wala na siyang 2021, WOFEX 2022. Wala na, generic na siya lahat so that we can use it again and again and again. And hopefully there is a CSR component, no? Example, ang daming tarpaulin, sana may pupuntahan siya. Yung maraming kababainan na ginagawa itong bag, maraming nangangailangan sa deprived communities na ginagawa itong bubong. Okay, yung pagkain na sobra, sana mayroong pupuntahan na charitable institution or composting, tulad na nabanggit ni Alex. There are a lot of ways wherein we can reduce our waste by making it part of our CSR in the event. Okay, so events under the new normal. Actually, ang pinagmamalaki ng industry is that yes, we are very strong in the physical. I've had 21 years of experience in the physical. But we also have become very quick experts in terms of the virtual. We had no choice. The entire MICE industry had to pivot very quickly to the virtual. But the most important component now is that we are putting the hybrid in place, and we are quickly becoming expert in this as well. But along with all 3 components, what's important is now we are getting experts in making it safe and sustainable. That is the promise of MICE moving forward. That is the kind of events that we can expect from the MICE stakeholders from here on up to 2030 and beyond. And with that, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me. Maraming salamat po for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Joel. And I really appreciate your presentation this afternoon. I mean, especially with the new measures that are taking place and the practical tips, such as actually the plaques and certificates, you swap it for e-certs, and also the lanyards to make it more generic so that they could be reused. This is something actually that I've noticed as well, no, in other events, not just in like MICE events, but also in like even in small meetings. Something that's being done. All right, so we'll move on to I believe it's the open forum, and I have some questions here with me right now. But for to the audience, I'd like to ask that if you have some questions in mind, please feel free to chat us on the chat box, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Okay, if we can get also Miss Alex on our screen this afternoon. Okay. All right. So again, once again, thank you so much, Ms. Alex and Sir Joel, for your wonderful presentations. I believe we've learned a lot in the content that you've just added to our body of knowledge. No?
Jonas, I think I'd just like to reemphasize what I said earlier. The venues are the ones in a big position to do bigger things than the organizer. All we can do is add to in terms of the safety and sustainability, add efforts, but really a lot is on the shoulders of the venues to make this happen. And I appreciate efforts like SMX.
Which brings us actually to our first question, as the the physical part of the event.
Recording progress.
There you go. Miss Alex, perhaps you could share with us your thoughts on the biggest challenge or challenges that the MICE sector has faced regarding sustainability, based on the physical events itself and not just the conduct of the events.
Okay. Well, with the pandemic, we have there was an increased need for single-use packaging material due to hygiene purposes. So in SMX, we are trying to practice a circular economy through our Blue Loop project. So we call it Blue Loop for all the SMHCC group. So we have three principles. First, identify the single-use item, and identify if we can eliminate it in our operations. So what we did was we established our baseline data on the generated plastic wastes that we have. And then each plastic waste, we identified how to eliminate it. After that, if that certain item will not be totally eliminated in our operations, we look for alternatives or substitutes. So we looked for multi-use alternatives. So for example, instead of disposable plastic stirrers, we replaced it with reusable or stainless teaspoons. So that's an example of our Blue Loop project. After that, if that single-use item will not be totally eliminated or substituted in our operations, we make sure to look for diversion measures. We look for processes or partners who can recycle or upcycle those single-use materials. Actually, even before the pandemic, when our caterers were serving packed meals to our guests, they were required to use compostable packaging materials. So with the new normal and with buffet service still not allowed, and the encouragement on the packed meal service or the plated service, our caterers use compostable materials in their service. Also, other single-use items that we have totally eliminated in our operations is the use of plastic straws, especially in those properties where, or in those properties that are located in municipalities that have totally banned the use of plastic straws. So that's it for us.
Thank you, Ms. Alex. Perhaps, Sir Joel, you could chime in also on the same question. I know we've already mentioned a bit of your measures now on the part of the organizers, but perhaps you could share with us also additional insights on the biggest challenges that the industry faced regarding sustainability.
Actually, it's cost because normally these are add-on costs. Example, if you insist on biodegradable, while the prices have gone down, it still is a bit of a premium than the plastic ones. So it's a choice that is very deliberate, okay? Uh, but however, sometimes we don't have a choice. Like if we're in a town outside of Manila that there is no venue that is as as progressive as SMX in terms of all of this procedures or what they do, we're forced to work with whatever we have. And siguro lang we're just minimize lang namin, but the difficulty really is cost. Plus, as an event organizer, we don't have 100% control over our clients. The only thing we can do is recommend, but we cannot force their hands and do as we want in terms of their booths, no? In terms of their setups, their wastage. Example, food sampling. While we recommend the use of biodegradable materials, at the end of the day, if they choose to use plastics as a vessel for their food tasting drinks or food, there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, so yun lang. Our hands are kind of tied in terms of that, but we make an effort to study it and work with venues and caterers that can help us really lower the carbon footprint. Yeah.
Understandable, sir. But just to have like a follow-up, with the recommendations that you give out to our fellow suppliers, the event organizers, or the clients themselves, has there been progress in kind of swaying them towards more sustainable practices? Have you seen it during the pandemic?
Yes, lalo na if it is government mandated. Example, if Pasay has a no plastic rule, so yun, it's not a matter of not following us, because there's a difference. Because they are paying us, they sort of feel they own us, all right? But if it's an LGU regulation, then we're all bound by it. Then they are afraid of being penalized by the city. So there is greater acceptance of such regulation. So I guess my point here is that if it becomes law, then us as organizers have a stronger backbone to implement it. Unless it's a law, the most we can do as organizers is recommend. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Ms. Alice, thank you as well for your response earlier. Moving a bit forward though from like the actual event organizing to the things that we see on the side, like going digital or going hybrid. And I'd like to address this question to Ms. Alex first, and then perhaps Sir Joel could chime in later after this. How do you see the benefits of going digital and hybrid talaga moving forward in all of SMX's events or perhaps any future gatherings?
Well, as mentioned by Attorney Tonet earlier, hybrid events have a wider reach, in terms of audience. So not only you'll be able to reach your core audience, you'll be able to reach secondary and your tertiary audience who were not able to attend the actual event. And because of this wider reach, you'll be able to increase your attendees and also boost your ROI. I think that's a way moving forward. And also, just to give you a background, we will be launching our hybrid events package by Q1 of 2022. So this is to adapt also to the new normal.
That looks really, really awesome. So Joel, maybe you could chime in also on this question.
Yes. Actually, the hybrid will really stay, but not in the way we think. The virtual will never replace the physical. It simply is not the same. Not the same in terms of the experience of the participants. Like here, if we were in a room together, the energy will be different, the warmth will be different, the interaction will be different. It simply is not the same. In terms of revenue, it also is not the same. Organizers like me all over the world can only maybe scratch the surface in terms of the revenue. It's never going to be the same. So as I mentioned earlier, when we were selling our hybrid, 98% of the time they will go with all physical instead of tapping into the virtual. In fact, some of the biggest players of MICE around the world who have spent millions in developing the virtual have scrapped it altogether because the results of their virtual efforts, ito sinabi ng Informa, the biggest organizer all over the world, it's appalling and it's dismal. Meaning they are scratching, but it doesn't mean that all of this technology will go away. It will be there as an add-on, but never as a replacement. Pampalabok na lang siya, like what I showed you during our virtual, papanganda virtual background, but it will never really replace the physical. So ako, I'm also thinking that the stakeholders should be happy that it's that way kasi nga SMX will not really benefit so much kung sobrang effective ang virtual. Wala magbubook sa physical, no? So yung ganon, I think I'm very happy with the way the market is reacting. They are very disappointed with the virtual, and that really is something as an organizer I'm banking on fast rebound because of this.
Right, sir. Well, now that you mention it, sir, so if in case in the future we have something as similar as this kind of situation, I guess the perfect or ideal option would then be physical, but in cases like these, maybe the hybrid would be the to-go thing for events moving forward.
Well, tama ka, no? If we are given no choice, to stay relevant and to give our people things to do, we will pivot back to the virtual. But once again, even as we do so, the prayer will always be there that we go back to the physical. Hindi mawawala yung longing for the physical, because no matter what the virtual does, you cannot smell, you cannot touch each other. Kahit anong advancement meron dyan, smell-o-vision has been around for such a long time. My particular field of expertise is food. You cannot do a food show virtually because you cannot taste, you cannot smell, right? The coffee, you cannot taste the muffins, okay? So the longing for physical will always be there. So that's why whenever I guest here, ang pinakapakiusap ko lang, let's go out and get vaccinated, because that is our solution, everybody. Vaccination is our solution to getting back to normalcy. Because no matter, I think, 5-10 years from now, virtual can still not replace physical. Yes, we will do it if forced, but we will never let go of the hope that physical will make a very strong comeback.
Here. Actually.
Sorry, but that's how passionate I am about the difference of effectiveness of virtual and physical. That's how passionate I am about that. Pasensya na kayo.
That's okay, sir. As a person that has been to WOFEX and WorldVex, I totally agree. Another question that I'd like to raise to Sir Joel is that I know this is kind of like a generalized question, but how can MICE contribute to tourism in the Philippines moving forward? Like, what do you think are the updates that we would expect perhaps in 2022 on MICE in relation to the pandemic? Are we seeing like more physical events now that knock on wood, no, with the Omicron, but does it feel like we're going to transition to a new normal in the MICE?
Definitely, MICE will play a very important role in restarting all of this. Just maybe a month ago, I was in Singapore. When Filipinos were not allowed to go to Singapore, I was allowed to go to Singapore because I was going there as a MICE participant. They made exceptions that I did not have to quarantine because I was a MICE participant. Why is this so? Because the MICE participant, vis-a-vis the leisure traveler, are used to following rules. We're going there for business. So because as a businessman, I'm used to rules. When I'm going for a MICE event, it's just taking me out of my regular box of rules and putting me in another box to follow rules again. All right. So not only am I spending more, in fact, the statistics say that the MICE traveler spends 6 times more, but is a more disciplined traveler. During the pandemic, also, I tagged along several DOT and TPB design events, physical. I've been to Benguet, La Union, Iloilo, Bohol, Boracay. Ang dami kong naikot during the pandemic because I was there for MICE. Okay? Ang daming protocol na sinusunod namin because I was there for MICE. They opened the doors, and I think, Jonas, all over the world, in the most progressive economies, they understand this. That's why MICE has always been a priority in terms of tourism portfolios. MICE has always been on the map as a something that can jumpstart, as a catalyst in terms of bringing back economies when it is on a downfall. MICE is instrumental in pushing the economy upwards when it's in trouble. Talagang hardened, pasensya na. Talagang believer lang, sorry.
No, I can feel the passion, sir, no, despite our virtual setting. Pero feeling ko, if we did it in a physical setting, talagang boom! Ramdam ko talaga.
Ako gumagalaw, pati balakang ko gumagalaw. Talagang ganun.
Yes, sir. And thank you for that response. No. Sige, let's go back a bit, I guess, to Miss Alex. And I know that SMX, despite its innovations, is still a relatively closed venue. So, what are like the best things that we would expect in places like SMX convention centers when we conduct meetings and or events in venues such as that, such as such as the SMXs?
Well, one thing's for sure, you can be assured that you'll be safe in our spaces. Hashtag safe spaces or SMX safe spaces. Before we offered our spaces, during the pandemic, we made sure to properly plan on how to open our doors again. We did third-party testing of our air samples. We also did testing of our surfaces to verify or to validate if our disinfection measures are adequate to prevent the transmission in our properties. So we also increased, as mentioned in my presentation earlier, increased our cleaning and maintenance of all our ventilation system, and that is still ongoing up to now. And we made sure that all our venue spaces have proper air exchange or air circulation, just to ensure that there will not be a transmission within our property or within our branches. So that's what you can expect. Hashtag safe spaces.
All right. Well, so we'll take care. I mean, we really want to take note of that. Hashtag safe spaces when it comes to MICE. Before we take a bit of a break, I'd like to ask Ms. Alice and Sir Joel for their final thoughts. Sir Joel, perhaps you'd like to start us off, sir.
Well, for the stakeholders, keep the faith. I do hope that you are with me in praying that we get back to the normal face-to-face with a slight, deviation in terms of the hybrid, the virtual. But at the end of the day, I will repeat what I said earlier. I'm a big promoter of the vaccine. Please get vaccinated because it's a tool that we all can use together as a solution, because it's a problem we share together. So the solution lies with us also together. So thank you very much. Get vaccinated.
Great message, sir. And Ms. Alex.
Well, I'd like to first thank everyone for attending or spending your afternoon with us. Rest assured that in all our properties, may it be in the NCR area or our provincial properties, you can be assured that you will be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that in mind, we close today's first panel, and we move on to a bit of a short break. If we can get the screen up, okay. All right. So be back po in about 5 minutes. So it's now 3:35 on my clock. Please do have a stretch, get some coffee, tea, orange juice, water, soft drinks, whatever you have in mind right now for your drinks. And we'll see you at 3:40 p.m. Thank you so much.
name is Ayam. I am the Public Relations Manager for Eco Hotels Incorporated. Eco Hotels started in 2015, so roughly 4 years ago. We have sustainable practices and we try to incorporate as much of it into our business models as we can. Since we have solar panels installed in the roof of all of our properties, because of that, our electricity bill is around 20,000 pesos a month, which is kind of unheard of. In the last year alone, we have been able to save 100,000 plastic toothbrushes. So the alternative was bamboo toothbrushes. Now we have refillable containers in the room, fillable soap, shampoo, conditioner, and lotion. So every time there's a new guest that checks in, we just refill with our own homemade amenities. Our farm-to-table practice, we have been doing this here at Villas actually since we started. So if you look around the property, there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of local products here, a lot of foliage, and we have an herb garden at the back. What we like to do is in farm-to-table is we use them in all of our dishes, seasoning in our welcome drinks as garnish. And because of this, not only are we able to reduce our carbon footprint, not only are we able to sustain our own produce and support our local environment, but we're able to save around 50,000 pesos a month in our groceries or in our purchasing. So when you come in here, we have signs all around the property explaining how this was reused, this was repurposed. Of course, our BYOB is not only done here at the hotel, but guests can also purchase. So we encourage them to bring their own empty shampoo bottles and to refill. It actually sustains the processes because this is a very remote community. It's a very small community. I think sustainable tourism, as long as you have respect for the local community, as long as you try to involve them as much as possible in all of the decisions and in all of the whatever we try to do. If there's involvement and communication, then sustainable tourism is very, very achievable. When you say environmentally friendly, they think it's just recycling. But it's not that. It's living within your means. All our resources are finite and it's running out. So if we still want to coexist here and if we still want to enjoy life as much as we can, we have to make changes. Honestly, if you're not going green, what's stopping you? Make everything better and easier for us, you know, it's one planet.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I hope that you had a very good 5 minutes to stretch your legs and grab your drinks. Hopefully it's coffee since it's just a your coffee break. But if not, that's also okay. Right. We continue on with a recorded message actually from, I believe, the Mother Earth Foundation. Let me confirm that with our team. There you go. So I'd like to call on Ms. Maricon Alvarez and Ms. Shelly Carbonell, program managers for the Mother Earth Foundation, on their thoughts on conducting zero waste fairs.
Holding a zero waste event means making a positive impact. The impact can also be negative, especially to the or even eliminate the production of waste and limit the use of raw materials. So why zero waste? Because it helps the environment by preventing pollution. It reduces carbon emissions by diverting discarded materials from methane generating landfills. It also saves money by reducing spending. And it gives a positive public relations. Why? Because event goers now demand sustainability. They want events that embrace green and sustainable practices. Sustainability is a concept that recognizes that the environment is an exhaustible resource. So it is important to use the resources wisely and protect it for the good of the environment, humanity, and all living things. There are various ways to achieve a zero waste event. Go for digital communication. Before, events have been a huge paper waste activity. Invitations, event programs, and flyers typically end up in the trash even before the event is even done. Now, there's no need for printing and mailing hundreds of invitations. It's now a standard practice to send invitation emails for an event. We can also use mobile apps or event apps as one-stop replacement for paper. You can use event apps to organize schedules and necessary event materials. This will also increase engagement from participants through personalized schedule and in-app messaging. So what can you do in an event app? In an event app, it provides central place for attendees to discover content and engage in lively discussions. You can also use this to send important updates and get real-time feedback. Changes of schedule and list of speakers can reflect up-to-the-minute changes. We should avoid making event goers howl around folders, booklets, pamphlets, and notebooks. Using email and social media give organizers the opportunity to connect. So, how can we promote an event in a zero waste way? We can use social media to tell our story. We can also publish case studies and meeting guidelines. Promoting on social media can help you reach your target participants or audience in a very short period of time. This will also help you connect with them. Swag also means conferences and events. So we are also giving away goodies, bags, pamphlets, pens, notebooks, or keychains. Now it's time to ditch them. Instead, use discount codes, e-tickets, or downloadable freebies. Therefore, digital swags means no more lost goodies. Attendees can access it anytime. But if your company or organization requires physical gifts, think of ways to wow your participants, like giving them products made from sustainable materials like bamboo toothbrush or eco bars. You can also give them metal straw, tumbler, or metal cutlery. Attendees can use this multiple times for a long time. Mother Earth Foundation has a 1-0 store that sells sustainable products that can be used as souvenir items. For the food and beverages, choose sustainable vendors or caterers. Partner with the local community. This will help the locals in your community. This will not only create jobs but will also promote local tourism. Set your parameters around your expectations. Choose vendors or caterers that align with your goal. For example, it is important that the food is locally sourced, how the food will be packaged, like if they will use reusable tableware. Avoiding disposables is an easy way to cut down on wastes. Where you hold your event is a major decision because this has an impact on the sustainability of your event. Choose a venue that is eco-friendly, like if it has natural lighting, LEED certified, has energy efficient system, and has ecologically waste management operations. It is important to know if the venue has green programs like composting or recycling. You can also use nature as your backdrop. Host your event as or party in a park. You can also use potted flowering plants or non-flowering plants, pine cones or dried flowers. Always remember to skip the balloons. These are just residuals that will add to your waste and will end up in landfills. Choose an eco-friendly hotel. It is very important to meet or even exceed the expectations of your participants. Consider the venue of events to avoid unnecessary commuting and should have easy access to public transportation. Transportation has a huge impact on the overall sustainability of your event. So choose a location for your event with much transportation. Consider renting transportation locally or offer subsidized public transportation. Or use shuttle bus and encourage carpooling. Or offer a fully covered ride-share passes to participants. A key to a zero waste event started from careful and detailed planning. You have the power to make zero waste a priority in the pre-planning stages, so it is very important to set your goals early on. If you plan to give your future participants physical gifts, please visit our WANA Zero store. Thank you very much.
And thank you as well to the Mother Earth Foundation for that wonderful set of tips that they provide us for um, zero waste events. We now come to our next part of our presentations, a set of presentations with climate action in the MICE sector and overview of DOT Sustainable Events Checklist, to be presented by Mr. Kiko Vilhagen, the project officer of the TVC project at PSEPSD. So Mr. Vilhagen graduated from De La Salle, Manila with a Bachelor of Science of Industrial Engineering in 2017. He is also an active participant in sustainable tourism, taking a short course on designing and developing sustainable tourism in 2018 at the Asian Institute of Management, Dr. Andrew L. Tan Center for Tourism. He is also a very staunch advocate for the environment, being a climate reality leader, having been trained by the Climate Reality Project led by former US Vice President Al Gore in 2020. He has also completed Zero Waste Academy online course organized by the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives and the Mother Earth Foundation just this year. Through this TVC project, he and the team have engaged the tourism, private and public sectors in promoting, advocating, and implementing the development and uptake of sustainable tourism with the aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase resource efficiency in hotels and MICE, such as with us today. And Kiko, you have the floor. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So again, my name is Kiko Vilhagen from the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development, Inc., or PSEPSD for short. We are here to talk about integrating climate action in the MICE sector. So a part of this presentation will be about the Transforming Tourism Value Chains project, the ongoing development of a sustainable events checklist, and a few international initiatives as avenues to promote hotel and MICE businesses that have successfully integrated climate action. So first off, this event under the TVC project is organized by PSEPSI, so again, which is a non-profit and non-government organization. And we are the administrator of the National Eco-Labeling Program, Green Choice Philippines, or NELP GCP for short. So we conduct eco-labeling through the NELP GCP, which is PSEPSI's flagship program. So it is a voluntary third-party Type 1 eco-labeling program, which is guided by principles and procedures of ISO 14024, or the International Organization for Standardization. So that provides criteria for environmentally sound and preferable products. So we work with various stakeholders, such as national and local government agencies, businesses, academia, and civic organizations, where we not only develop criteria, but also promote the program, products, and how to acquire these through green procurement. One of the most recent eco-labeling criteria that's been updated is for the food service establishment, which is actually a result and output of the recently concluded project with WWF called the Sustainable Diner, a key ingredient for sustainable tourism. So we are at the phase of awarding pilot businesses of the project the seal of approval, thus indicating that they met the minimum standards to be environmentally friendly, with indicators such as being aware or capacitated on the environmental impacts of the food industry, expanding their dining options and becoming healthier and environment friendly, creation of schemes for food waste and solid waste reduction, among others. So, and also mitigation or reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So you can check out the criteria in our website at www.psepsd.org.ph. So businesses under SM Hotels and Conventions Corp actually are a few of the businesses just recently eco-labeled, so namely the restaurants of the Alvista Hotel and Pico Sands Hotel. So again, congrats to them for being the pilot and one of the first eco-labeled food service establishments here in the Philippines. So we've also recently published criteria for sustainable packaging under our Sustainable Packaging Towards Marine Litter project funded by GIZ. So the stakeholder consultation just concluded actually yesterday and will be for final deliberation of the technical committee. So these criteria will especially be helpful in encouraging tourism and MICE businesses to be more conscious of their waste. So in the meantime, you can check out the criteria in our, again, PSEPSI and Green Choice Philippines Facebook pages. Okay. So the project that we're implementing, funded by the ICI, or International Climate Initiative of the German government, under UNEP, or United Nations Environment Program, as the implementing agency, and the Philippine Department of Tourism as the executing agency, is called Transforming Tourism Value Chain in Developing Countries and Small Island Developing States to accelerate more resource efficient, low carbon development. So this project is also being implemented in the Dominican Republic, St. Lucia, and Mauritius. So again, as mentioned by JM a while ago, we aim to transform Philippine tourism value chains by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, or the carbon footprint, in 3 major tourism sectors with high resource use. So that's namely the accommodation, the meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions, or MICE. So and cross-cutting food and beverage operations, so, or hospitality businesses, as we would like to call, to encapsulate all 3. So when the project was conceptualized back in 2017, the main pilot areas identified were Metro Manila and Iloilo. However, during the pandemic, we expanded our reach and opened the project's support to anyone in the country interested and willing to engage virtually. So we now have partner businesses from Palawan, Boracay, Negros Occidental, Bacolod, Bohol, among others. So our main guiding and strategic document is the roadmap for low carbon and resource efficient tourism in the Philippines, which I'll talk more about in the next slide. Okay. So after conducting several key workshops, activities, and research since the project began in 2017, the project developed this roadmap or a master plan guide with corresponding targets in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. So not only does it provide readers of what the tourism value chains look like in the Philippines and their identified environmental hotspots or value chain stages where with high environmental impact, the roadmap provides recommendations and solutions in the form of 4 systemic solutions, as you can see on the screen: sustainable food value chain, sustainable events, zero pollution from tourism, and sustainable energy. So even during the pandemic, this document has been our guide given the relevance of the solutions. There was only a bit of prioritizing and revising of timelines. So how this document is used is that businesses can expand their sustainability considerations and initiatives by looking at the proposed solutions of the roadmap, similar to browsing a menu. So for example, if hospitality businesses want to plan out and strengthen their procurement policies for food, they can check out the Sustainable Food Value Chain Systemic Solution, and they'll see what activities to consider, supporting activities to be done, and stakeholders to engage. The same goes for businesses who may want to develop a highly competitive workforce, trained in sustainable events, eliminate plastic items in hotels and MICE, and among many other solutions. So that is the purpose of the roadmap, and we intend to lobby it further with businesses and government, especially given the recent international landscape and spotlight to tourism, which I will also share about later on. Okay, so the upcoming targets of the roadmap by 2025 are the following: 15% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, 25% reduction in edible food waste, zero untreated sewage from hotels and venues goes into the sea, and 15% reduction in non-renewable energy. So which should then double by 2030 with the main overall target of 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. To accurately monitor these, so the project's technical experts, Waste and Resources Action Program and Denmark Technical University has developed a tool specifically for hospitality businesses to monitor and report their resource consumption and carbon footprint of up to Scope 3 emissions. So our project's tool, which monitors until Scope 3, is called the Resource Efficiency Tool, which you got a glimpse of a while ago, as presented by Ms. Alex, and which also I'll get to later on. Okay, so I would like to narrow our discussion to the sustainable events portion, which is aligned with the MICE roadmap of the Department of Tourism, at least with the version before the pandemic. So these are enabling policies and institutional support, develop a highly competitive workforce trained in sustainable events, sustainably improve infrastructure that underpins MICE sector, and strengthen research and development in event sustainability. And the hotspots that they can address or impact are specifically on meat and dairy products, electricity use, food waste, and water and air and land pollution from liquid and solid waste. So I think we also got a glimpse of these things that could be mitigated from our previous presentations. So we have taken into account not only in specific activities identified in the roadmap, but also in the development of a sustainable events checklist. So with the Department of Tourism, we are developing a sustainable events checklist with the objective to guide event organizers in implementing sustainability, promoting efficiency in resource consumption, and mitigating carbon emissions in most aspects of event organization, and to help them monitor their progress in the form of suggested data indicators. So the development of the checklist began right before the pandemic struck, which is why it's been so long to develop because of the challenges brought about by COVID-19. However, we've had some room as of late to have it reviewed and commented further by a few private sector establishment. And so the checklist has also taken inspiration from existing criteria and initiatives. So namely the ASEAN MICE venue standards, the ANAHO certification, DOT health and safety guidelines for MICE organizers and venues or facilities under the new normal, UN Environment Program Sustainable Events Guide, and the UN Sustainable Events Checklist. So definitely we'll also bring this up eventually with our experts a while ago, so from PASEOS as well as SMX and other stakeholders, of course, in following the due process and collaboration with the government. Okay, so let me share with you on what we've defined so far sustainable event. So it considers the environmental, social, and economic aspects of its activities from pre-event, during event, and post-event. So in each of the 3 stages of the event, we've drafted specific activities that are categorized under the 3 pillars of sustainability, that are social, environmental, and economic responsibilities. Under the social, the event should promote equality, diversity, and inclusivity with fair treatment to all stakeholders, and at the same time ensuring safety, security, respect to human rights and labor standards. For environmental, the event should account and promote low emissions from any of the following. So that's transport, waste reduction, reuse, recycling, resource efficiency, and climate targets, including monitoring the environmental impacts the event may cause, as well as the initiative to lessen it. So as for economic responsibilities, first and foremost, support local communities and generate savings through resource efficiency. So also transparent procurement, avoidance of corruption, quality of goods, boosting innovation and job creation, of course, if possible. So as mentioned, the checklist is divided into 3, pre-program, program, and post-program. Also, actions are split into key action and optional actions, as these are still being developed, and we're only giving you a highlight and overview. I'll be only sharing a few actions for everyone's reference and appreciation per responsibility. So with the existing sustainability initiatives of the event, under the social responsibility, here we have encourage or provide instruction to stakeholders on how they can contribute and participate in that initiative. So the action here is to communicate and get people involved. This way, it can be memorable and as well as even educational. This may be already practiced in majority of events, so there shouldn't be a challenge when it comes to preparing accordingly to the special requests and preferences of guests or clients. When it comes to the team of staff of organizers, the checklist encourages team effort in monitoring the sustainable event objectives. So there can be a sort of whiteboard or checkboard to efficiently and visually update and eventually cross off met objectives. So lastly, for health and safety, the checklist encourages a emergency preparedness plan and safety and sanitation plan. So this can be communicated at the beginning of the event, like how some disaster risk and management plans are presented by the on-duty officer, pointing out where the fire exits are, what to do if an earthquake occurs, and the like. So as for this activity, the checklist asks for a medical station with a health professional on duty. Okay, moving forward, so as for the economic responsibilities between procurement and resource consumption and innovation, the checklist asks to support local and micro, small, medium enterprises for the event, especially if they are promoting environmentally friendly or compostable packaging. So as for tokens, I believe are very good, are being practiced right now and is very good at this. The MICE sector is very good at this to procure locally produced items as tokens for participants and speakers. So monitoring, again, is important to be able to meet targets and surpass them in the future. So the checklist, for example, asks that the events ensure at least 50% of costs for event decorations are locally sourced or even locally produced, reusable, or even green certified. So for certain events with exhibits, it is encouraged to make those exhibits competitive through sustainable design. Okay, lastly, environmental responsibilities. So here I think we did see a lot from Sir Joel and even Ms. Alex's presentation. But let me go through this slide with you guys. So we can all agree when I say the advanced communication is very important and already plays a big role in the MICE industry. Let's continue this practice and add, if not yet added for some, communication about encouraging participants to bring their own materials, such as paper, pen, or tumblers. So there may be an issue of branding. A solution to that can be, of course, stickers perhaps with QR codes containing information about the event and the like. So I'm sure branding can still be present even with this type of action. So if by any chance guests did not bring their own materials, then they should be able to get upon request. If it is a product that is usually plastic, like straws and coffee stirrers, the checklist encourages the use of reusable alternatives instead. The next, what gets measured gets managed. And therefore, measuring resource consumption, especially food procured, can help the organizers analyze consumption and calculate greenhouse gas emissions. So food is more often than not the highest emitter of carbon emissions in any tourism business and an important part of MICE events, which is why it is emphasized in the checklist under environmental responsibilities. So food-based management can be divided, into pre-service and post-service food waste. So as a quick fact for everyone, Sir friends, did you know that 1/3 of all food produced globally is wasted? And that's equivalent to an estimated 3.3 billion tons of carbon emissions, which is enough to fill 650,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Okay, so the resource efficiency tool can help tourism businesses, including MICE, measure and monitor resource consumption and calculate greenhouse gas emissions until scope 3, so which we've seen in action again through Ms. Alex's presentation with SMX, as well as the entire SM Hotels group. So most of our monitoring systems for greenhouse gas emissions here in the country only reach until scope 2, if they are monitoring them at all. Scope 2 covers emissions indirectly created from the generation of purchased energy, or in other words, electricity. Our resource efficiency tool also covers, until scope 3, which is also indirect emissions, not included in scope 2, that occur in the value chain of the company, including both upstream and downstream emissions. So in other words, it helps measure emissions from food purchases and waste. So these are, the practices when it comes to greenhouse gas monitoring, dividing it into 3 scopes. So what you are seeing now is the result summary tab of the tool, which is an Excel sheet, by the way, that has all the necessary calculations and local Philippine emission factors integrated in it. So after inputting all the necessary data, users will see and analyze the following data indicators, such as guest night, energy use, water, food, solid waste, plastics, red meat, and even food purchases. And these again are calculated and it's provided an output of greenhouse gas emissions per guest night, which is the highlight of the tool. So as you can see, it also provides visual representation in the form of graphs that can compare 3 years worth of data. So for those who are interested to know more about the tool and wish to use or implement it, so we'd be happy to talk more about it after today. So the tool is meant to be shared and used by hotels and MICE. So I hope we can help further disseminate it through the project for application and implementation. Okay, last part of the checklist is focused on the venue and has these categories so far. Completeness and condition, cleanliness and sanitation, business practices, accessibility, and safety and security. So some draft actions of the venue are that the venue, does regular maintenance checkups to ensure smooth operations of the program or agenda. There's also that accessibility aspect in preparing a traffic management system, communicating, where guests can enter, park, and exit, among other things. Of course, there's also maintaining of cleanliness of the venue, which I'm pretty sure we all have a good sense of already. Signages for emergencies and evacuation, among others, are also part for safety. And lastly, as a business practice, continuous update of official website and platforms where MICE organizers can do a good scout of the venue prior to visiting it. So a few next steps for everyone's reference. We hope to further review comments that we've received so far from tourism and hospitality stakeholders. Once we finalize that, we discuss this and coordinate with DOT, specifically with the tourism standards and regulations in preparation of likely stakeholder consultation event. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so for my last few slides, let us introduce to you international platforms and initiatives that tourism businesses can become a part of. When the checklist has been finalized, using it in your business can definitely support you in becoming signatories of these initiatives. So the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, which I'll be referring to as GTPI, is the tourism campaign arm of the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment. It unites over 500 businesses, governments, and organizations around the world, taking a more proactive approach in addressing plastic pollution at its source. So the GTPI was formed by agencies of the United Nations in partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and UNWTO, and so the GTPI really encourages you to take action if you are a signatory by publicly announcing your commitment in achieving circularity in your operation. So whether you are an accommodation provider, a supporting NGO, a tour operator, travel agent, supplier, or tourism destination manager, or national or local government, the GTPI invites stakeholders to set targets to achieve a common vision, which are 6 characteristics for a circular economy for plastic. So for example, for accommodations providers, depending on their capability, they can make a target of 70% of items in hotel bathrooms being compostable, biodegradable, or reusable by 2030, or no disposable cutlery in the hotel or restaurant by 2030. So being a signatory, of course, also entails creating awareness on the need for the sector to take action. And alongside these commitments and responsibilities, the signatory can receive and share information about the most recent solutions to tackling the problem, foster sustainable procurement practices and principles, promoting collaboration, and be recognized for their leadership in taking action. So for specifics, here are a few commitment signatories are encouraged to act towards. So number 1, eliminate problematic or unnecessary plastic packaging and its items. Take action to move from single-use to reuse models or reusable alternatives. Next is to engage the value chain to move towards 100% of plastic packaging to be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. Next, you can take action to increase the amount of recycled content across all plastic packaging and items used. Collaborate and invest to increase the recycling and composting rates for plastics. And lastly, report publicly and annually on progress made towards these targets. So, another international initiative that the project also directly supports is the Glasgow Declaration, Climate Action in Tourism, which was launched during COP26. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with COP26, the word COP stands for Conference of Parties. And in the climate change sphere, the parties are the governments which have signed the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, or UNFCCC. The COP brings these signatory governments together once a year to discuss how to jointly address climate change. So the conferences are attended by world leaders, ministers, and negotiators, but also by representatives from civil society, business, international organizations, and the media. So COP26 was hosted by the UK in partnership with Italy just last month. So going back, now, so the Glasgow Declaration aims to act as a catalyst for increased urgency about the need to accelerate climate action in tourism and to secure strong actions and commitment to cut tourism emissions at least in half over the next decade and reach net zero emissions as soon as possible before 2050. So the declaration is asking its signatories to commit to, among others, to support the global commitment to halve emissions by 2030 and net zero as much as possible before 2050, deliver climate action plans within 12 months, and report publicly on an annual basis on progress against interim and long-term targets, so as well as on actions being taken. So all this taking to heart the 5 pathways to follow, which is measure, decarbonize, regenerate, finance, and collaborate. So the declaration is a major development because the main output of our project, the Transforming Tourism Value Chains project, for each business we engage, is the development of a sustainable tourism action plan through the use of our roadmap and the resource efficiency tool. So this can act as the climate action plan the signatories are requested to commit to within 12 months. So joining the TVC project would automatically bring your hospitality business, several steps closer to becoming signatories of the Glasgow Declaration and a pillar towards climate action through tourism. So to know more about the GTPI and Glasgow initiative, you can also definitely check out them out at the One Planet Network website, or feel free to reach out to us about it. Okay. Lastly, so what was also launched during COP26 is the Net Zero Carbon Events Pledge. So signatories commit to publish their organization's pathway to achieve net zero by 2050, in line, of course, with the Paris Agreement's requirement to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 as well. So collaborate with partners, suppliers, and customers to drive change across the value chain, measure and track scopes 1, 2, and 3 of greenhouse gas emissions according to industry best practice, and of course, as always, report publicly on the progress, at least here for every 2 years at the minimum. So more information about this particular pledge at netzerocarbonevent.org. Okay, so that actually ends my presentation. I hope you learned a lot. And again, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for listening this afternoon. Jam, back to you.
Hello.
Sorry, I had some technical difficulties. Thank you, Kiko, for that wonderful presentation. We now go on to a bit of Q&A with Kiko this afternoon. If there's anyone who'd like to share your questions, please feel free to do so. So Kiko, based on your experience and of course working with stakeholders, what are the benefits and the advantages, I guess, of becoming more sustainable in event organizing?
So yeah, thank you for that, James. So in all aspects, I think not only the Philippines, but other countries, of course, are transitioning more sustainable. Post, or even during COVID. So I believe there have been also movement in the Philippines when it comes to climate action, So not only during COP, but in other aspects or areas within the government and within the industry, and becoming sustainable. So of course, starting as soon as possible, no matter how small the progress, can definitely bring the industry a step ahead before it becomes more maybe harder to implement in the future. Sorry, Jamie, you're on mute.
Sorry. Again, sorry about that technical difficulty there. Well, one important factor that a lot of people are considering is, energy consumption. In one large event spanning over days, we could have like our air conditioning go up to max, or there'll be lots of lights, especially in closed venues. But how would that be different when it comes to like online meeting platforms? Have there been studies that are looking into online consumption, or sorry, energy consumption in online meeting platforms?
So in terms of online meeting platforms, of course, since we're all at home, there is a lot of energy that is not consumed as if we were to travel and meet in certain big venues. But so yeah, there's the only thing that I'm aware of sometimes that I am aware of and read somewhere is that when it comes to online meeting platforms, it's also nice to use efficiently your camera, for example, because turning off of videos also consumes a bit more energy and contributes again to carbon emissions. But of course, we're not promoting, of course, to just have online meetings and webinars. That's why our initiative, with the project, is to open again and support the green recovery of the MICE sector, responsibly and sustainably.
Can I just tie you up with one comment that Sir Joel made, because he's an ardent supporter of physical versus virtual. I'd like to get your thoughts on how you see a sustainable MICE event moving forward. Would you imagine it to be more of like 100% physical, or is it like a hybrid kind of thing, or is it a virtual kind of thing?
Right now I can't. It's really hard to say, given the new variants that we're experiencing and COVID still being a challenge. But even pre-pandemic, we did believe that events could be made sustainable, and we did observe that actually with a few events, being organized already, online registration, digital copies of materials or programs. So there is that movement, and even if sustainable events can be done, even if 100% capacity. But I guess moving forward, considering the health and safety protocols and the pandemic, as you said, I think a hybrid would definitely be the go-to, so that there is that still that feeling of physical event, or the actual benefits, the power that the MICE sector has when it comes to having face-to-face.
See, well, now that we're close to the end actually of our event this afternoon, anything you'd like to share with our audience right now? Perhaps you want to promote the RE tool maybe, or any of our initiatives at PSEPSD?
Yes, of course. So again, I'd like to reiterate to tourism hospitality businesses who would like to receive support from the project. And again, if it's all right to add, this is free support. This project is being funded by international donors to promote and implement sustainable tourism in hospitality and MICE. And the project will actually end next year. So there is still time for businesses to join in. We have we're close to finalizing our fresh activities, planned activities for next year. So I invite everyone, to those interested, not to be shy. Please feel free to reach me, even through text, messenger, or email, to know more about the project, and we'll be more than happy to explain in detail, how it will benefit your business, and of course, the tourism industry as a whole. So, yeah.
And with that in mind, thank you, Kiko, for presenting us with our initiatives at PSEPSD this afternoon. And with that in mind, we now move on to our next set. We're very close to the end, ladies and gentlemen. So we do have a photo op, I believe, up next.
Hi, Jem. I can take the photo op if ever.
Okay.
We'll go straight to that. Yeah.
Okay. We'd like to ask our participants to turn on their cameras for our photo op this afternoon. And once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us in our discussion on sustainable events. All right, coming on.
All right, everyone. On my cue, we're gonna take the photo. So please show us your bright smiles. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, for the second frame, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you very much.
And thank you, Andy, for leading us with our photo op today. We're now actually at the very end of our event this afternoon. And in closing, I'd like to bring up video greetings for our closing remarks, courtesy of Undersecretary Verna Esmeralda Buensuceso, OIC Undersecretary for Tourism Development Planning at the DOT.
Attorney Maria Antoinette Velasco Leones, Chief Operating Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board, expert resource persons from the MICE industry, represented by the Philippine Association of Convention and Exhibition Organizers and Suppliers, Inc., Mr. Joel Pascual and Ms. Alex Bautista, our partners in the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development, Inc., headed by their President and Executive Director, Mr. June Alvarez, colleagues in government and friends in the industry, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. On behalf of the Philippine Department of Tourism and our Tourism Secretary, Bernadette Romulo Puyat, we would like to thank the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development for organizing this important program. The Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development has been a partner agency of the department since 2017 through the Transforming Tourism Value Chain Program, which seeks to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase resource efficiency in high-resource tourism sectors and small island developing states such as the Philippines. The Department of Tourism, in its mandate to promote sustainable and responsible tourism, looks to the Sustainable Development Goals for its policy direction in advocating the principles that would provide the benefits of growth in economic progress and a more meaningful and inclusive development for the Filipino people. For 2017, PSEPSD and DOT have initiated activities in the pursuit of a low carbon and resource efficient tourism industry in the country. The activities aligned with its pursuit aim to promote sustainable consumption and production among hotels, food and beverage and tourism establishments, to integrate create low carbon and resource efficient operations among tourism value chains. A very important output of this partnership is a sustainable events checklist, which was put together by the DOT and PSEPSD with the significant inputs provided by our industry experts from the hotel and MICE industries and other partners in the Philippine Stakeholders Advisory Group. The Sustainable Events Checklist outlines sustainability points to consider in organizing and holding MICE events. These sustainability points complement the strategies identified in the Philippine MICE Roadmap 2030, which are enabling policies and institutional support, sustainable infrastructure that underpins the MICE sector, developing highly competitive workforce trained in sustainable events, and strengthening research and development and in event sustainability. It is also aligned with the new strategy identified in the recalibrated roadmap on systematically reducing the impacts of MICE on the environment and crisis proofing of the industry. The presentations earlier presented how the industry and government can and should work together in achieving this by improving resource efficiency, reducing waste, and incorporating sustainability requirements. We acknowledge that among the sectors heavily hit by the COVID-19 crisis, the MICE sector is in an exceptional place to see this challenge as a learning opportunity and make use of these learnings in strategizing and planning for the eventual resumption of MICE activities in a sustainable manner. We are confident that our participants have learned a lot from the discussions this afternoon as much as we did. Rest assured that activities similar to this will be continuously pursued by the department with the assistance of our partners in PSEPSD and the industry. Thank you very much and mabuhay tayong lahat. Maraming salamat.
And with that in mind, as we close our event, again, I'd like to thank everyone who shared their insights this afternoon on organizing sustainable meetings and functions. And thank you as well, our dear audience, for joining us this afternoon on this very, very special topic. And we're now closing our. This is actually the last event of TVC for this year. Well, happy holidays, everyone. Stay safe, stay sane, stay happy. And in advance, maligayang Pasko at nanigumang taon sa ating lahat. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.